If you're a man with type 2 diabetes, odds are you're dangerously low in one nutrient that controls your blood sugar, your testosterone, your energy, and even your sleep. Most doctors miss it. Most men have never even thought about it. And by the time the deficiency shows up on labs, you're already paying the price. So today we're going to fix that. Stick around to the end, and I'll also give you a quick breakdown of 3 other overlooked nutrients that are critical for reversing diabetes in men. I'm Dr. Adam, a men's health expert who helps guys fix all the damage that type 2 diabetes causes by doing the opposite of what most doctors recommend. So instead of focusing on meds and weight loss, I focus on muscle and metabolism and even supplements. Okay, let's get right to it. The number one nutrient most diabetic men are dangerously low in is magnesium. This isn't some fringe theory. This is in the research. It's in clinical guidelines. And most importantly, it's in the real world data that I see from men I work with every week. So here's what you need to understand. Magnesium is essential. It's involved in over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. So it's essential. It's also essential for glucose transport, for insulin signaling, for muscle contraction. It also plays a role in testosterone production and sleep regulation and even stress control. And yet more than 60% of people with type 2 diabetes are deficient. Why is that? It's because high blood sugar leads to excess urination. Your body's trying to get rid of it, so it tries to pee it out, which flushes magnesium out too. On top of that, chronic stress and poor sleep increases your magnesium burn rate. And then certain medications like metformin or diuretics or proton pump inhibitors, they deplete it. And then you add in processed food diets, which are basically magnesium deficient. So you've got the perfect storm. So you have an increased need, you have increased loss, and then low intake. So let's zoom in on why magnesium is so critical for men with type 2 diabetes. First is blood sugar control, because magnesium helps insulin bind to its receptor and then get that glucose into your cells, out of your blood and into your cells. Low magnesium means insulin doesn't work as well, which leads to more insulin resistance, which is the big problem with type 2 diabetes. Even worse, the more insulin resistant you become, the more magnesium you lose. It's a vicious cycle. In fact, one meta-analysis found that every 100 milligram increase in daily magnesium was associated with a 15% lower risk of type 2 diabetes, so it's significant. Second, testosterone production. So magnesium helps regulate the HPA axis and the gonadotropin signaling, which are both critical for testosterone production. It also reduces oxidative stress and inflammation, which are known testosterone killers. One study in older men showed that magnesium supplementation increased both free and total testosterone levels, and that was especially true in those who were exercising. Third thing about why we need magnesium is for muscle recovery and strength. Because without magnesium, you can't relax your muscles, literally. It's essential for muscle contraction and relaxation, as well as energy production and muscle protein synthesis. And this is especially important if you're working to rebuild lean mass, which is, again, the most powerful tool we have in reversing insulin resistance. Step 4, and the fourth reason why we need magnesium, is sleep and cortisol. Magnesium calms the nervous system. It reduces cortisol, and it improves sleep onset and quality. Poor sleep, we know, leads to higher blood sugar and lower testosterone, which means more cravings and worse decision making. So magnesium is your ally here. Now, you might be wondering, if it's this important, why don't doctors talk about it? Well, 2 big reasons here. One, they don't check, so they're not going to talk about things that they're not looking for. Or they check the wrong labs. Most doctors check serum magnesium, which tells you almost nothing, because only about 1% of your total magnesium is in the blood. The rest is in your bones and in your cells. So unless you're critically deficient, your serum magnesium will look normal. The better test, the one that I do, is called RBC magnesium, red blood cell magnesium, or even magnesium retention testing if you want research grade data, which you probably don't want, so RBC magnesium. The other reason that doctors don't pay attention to this is that they think the RDA, the recommended daily amount allowance, is enough. So they recommend 400 to 420 milligrams per day for men, but that's based on the minimum needed to avoid disease. So we're not talking about the optimal amount for somebody who's stressed and insulin resistant and probably metabolically overloaded. Because At the end of the day, you're probably not just trying to survive, you're trying to rebuild. Now, what are some of the symptoms of low magnesium? Well, you might be magnesium deficient if you're dealing with any of these. It's a pretty wide range. So constant fatigue, poor blood sugar control, despite doing everything right, restless legs, that's really common, muscle cramps, insomnia or trouble staying asleep, anxiety, irritability, just feeling wired, but then physically tired, low libido or weak morning erections, and then even GI symptoms like constipation. The big picture, if you've got type 2 diabetes and you're not supplementing or at least aggressively tracking magnesium intake, you should just assume that it's low. Now, let's zoom out for a second. So, if low magnesium worsens insulin resistance, we know this. The big question is, will supplementing with magnesium actually help improve insulin sensitivity? And the answer is yes. So, there's pretty good published evidence that shows that magnesium supplementation can modestly lower fasting glucose and hemoglobin A1C, especially in people with diabetes or prediabetes, or who are confirmed low magnesium levels with blood tests. The effects on postprandial glucose, so your glucose level after meals, is less consistent. But in terms of improving baseline insulin sensitivity and overall metabolic control, magnesium is a foundational tool. So that's why I don't wait until someone's deficient on labs to start supplementing. It's too late by then, so we need to build the foundation early. So here's the plan to fix this. Step 1, choose the right form, because not all magnesium is created equal. You'll want to avoid magnesium oxide or carbonate because they are poor absorption and then they could have a strong laxative effect, which you might not want. So really there's 4 options. You can use magnesium glycinate for sleep and anxiety. You can use magnesium malate for muscle and energy, magnesium threonate if you want brain support, or magnesium citrate if you're constipated. But you probably don't want to use that one long term. For me, I need all the sleep support I can get, so I use magnesium glycinate at night. Step 2, start with 200 to 400 milligrams daily. Most men I work with do best around 400 milligrams. Typically split between morning and evening, unless you're using it to also help with your sleep, in which case you want to take it about 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Step 3, you can eat magnesium-rich foods, but don't rely on them alone. Even healthy diets often fall short, since there's just less magnesium in our soil than there used to be. But the best food sources include things like pumpkin seeds and almonds and spinach, dark chocolate, avocado, salmon, that kind of stuff. Again, these help, but if your body is burning through magnesium at an excessive rate, maybe due to stress or high blood sugar or your medications, then food isn't going to be enough. You need to supplement. But step 4, you also can pair this with the right lifestyle. So reduce alcohol, manage stress, build muscle, cut out processed carbs. All those things are going to help you keep that magnesium that you're supplementing with. So a quick story about this. One client came in with an A1C of 7.1%. They had poor sleep. They reported no morning erections, and their energy was crashing in the afternoon around 2 p.m. And this guy was walking daily. He was experimenting with intermittent fasting. And at that point, his diet was pretty solid, but nothing was changing. And one of the tools we added was 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at night. We also did a small carb refeed once a week, more protein based on his diary, and more strength training. And within 3 weeks, his sleep completely normalized. His morning erections returned, which is always a win. His energy was consistent all day. His fasting blood sugar dropped 15 points. And by the 3-month mark, his A1C was down to 5.9%. So, big picture, this wasn't magic. It was just one of the tools that was missing. And the strategy here was to fix the missing link. Okay, so the other critical nutrients that I mentioned that men with type 2 diabetes need to focus on are zinc, vitamin D, and omega-3s. So first, let's start with zinc, because zinc is essential for testosterone and for immune health. We learned that with COVID, and for insulin action. And the problem there is that it's depleted by high carb diets and alcohol. So I recommend supplementing with zinc picolinate or zinc citrate at 15 to 30 milligrams per day. But you don't want to take it at the same time as the magnesium because they can compete with absorption. Second is omega-3 fatty acids. So fish oil, talking EPA and DHA, which at this point, it's black and white that they reduce inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. They also help if you have high triglycerides or if you have any inflammation in your blood vessels. Low intake typically means higher heart attack or stroke risk, which is still the number one killer in diabetic men. So you really want to pay attention to that. And the best source of fish oil is wild caught fatty fish like salmon or sardines, or you can supplement with them. And that is a dose of 2 to 3 grams per day of combined EPA and DHA. Okay, the third nutrient, bonus nutrient, is vitamin D3 with K2. So we know that D3 improves insulin sensitivity, testosterone, and immune health, whereas vitamin K2 directs calcium into bones instead of arteries. You take them together at a dose of around 2,000 to 5,000 IU of D3 plus 100 to 200 micrograms of K2, and that's the MK7 form. Okay, last thing, you weren't designed to live dependent on medications. You weren't made to crash every afternoon, struggle with energy, or feel off and not know why. A huge part of reversing type 2 diabetes, especially in men, is rebuilding the nutrient foundation that our modern lives stripped away. And magnesium is just the beginning. So subscribe for more videos on ways to fix your energy and get in better shape by fixing your metabolism.